New Jersey is closing its only women's prison after rampant abuse by the guards have been reported. So we've got some bad guards. We call them correctional police officers. They're bad POPO, folks. Bad police officers. We've got like 10 of them we're going to talk about. And then we've got to talk about a case where 4 prisoners escaped from a federal penitentiary in Texas using body doubles and dummies. What? So we've got some interesting stuff to talk about. The point of this segment is that law enforcement and our system of corrections, let's say, has a little bit of work to do, doesn't it? Let's take a look at this story from NPR that New Jersey is closing the only prison. Governor Phil Murphy said on Monday, announced a press release that the Edna Mahan Correctional Facility for women is moving its nearly 400 inmates to a new facility or other existing facilities. That's a lot. And they say, the governor said that it's a long history of abusive incidents that predate our administration, not our fault. But we must now commit ourselves to completely breaking this pattern of misconduct to better serve incarcerated women entrusted to the state's care. The move came on the same day that the governor's office released its findings into the reports of brutal cell extractions that occurred inside the prison on January 1st. This was reported by NJ Advanced Media. This incident left women prisoners with injuries ranging from scratches to a fractured eye socket. The administration's report, written by a law firm, found that the prison staff used excessive force to remove women from their cells and then filed false reports about what happened. You know, these types of stories are just so infuriating. I know that in criminal law, there's sort of this, in popular culture, this idea that, you know, prison's supposed to be hard and rough and you're supposed to get roughed up, and, you know, prison rape in the showers and dropping the soap and all of that stuff is sort of funny, and that, you know, if you get mouthy with the guards and they pop you in the jaw, that you kind of deserve that, right? You were somebody who broke the law, and so why should prison be a country club for you, right? There's that sort of, it's a popular idea that I think is unfortunate, really, because when people are convicted, when they're sentenced to serve time in custody, the sentence typically comes in the version of time, okay? Not rape, not a busted eye socket, not constant abuse, not, you know, awful regurgitated food like Sheriff Joe Arpaio was doing here, right? Not being thrown out in prison, outside in like 30-degree winters or 120-degree summers. That's not part of the sentence, right? The penalty is you serve time. We remove you from society. The penalty is not we throw you away and just treat you like a subhuman piece of debris. Not okay. So when we have people who are supposed to be held to higher standards, law enforcement, correctional officers, prison guards, right? Anybody in these positions of power, they have to be held to the highest of standards, because we have caged human beings that we have said we are removing from society. That means we are taking them into our custody as a society. We have an obligation to treat those people well, or at least not compound the penalties that they are facing, that they have not been sentenced to. Let's go back to the story. The New Jersey Attorney General's office, they've charged 10 correction officers with official misconduct and other crimes related to the ongoing criminal inquiry in the January incident. So we have Goldsmith, he's a chair for Prison Justice Watch, said that she did not oppose the closure. She suggested simply moving inmates to another place. Says you got to change the culture, not a change of scenery, right? Which is a good point. So we're going to move them over to the same institution, essentially, of the same bureaucracy, just a different location. Goldsmith, who was incarcerated for 13 years before being released in 17, also called for better training of correctional officers. And I hear that all the time, like more training. And I don't buy it in a lot of cases. We're about to go through 10. Okay, 10 people. Is that a training problem? Or is this a cultural problem or a personnel problem, hiring the wrong people? In 2020, federal investigators concluded that sexual abuse was systemic at Edna, and New Jersey was finalizing a consent decree with the Justice Department that would likely include federal monitors at the prison. New Jersey DOC announced earlier this year it's going to pay $21 million to settle 22 civil lawsuits. against the state over allegations of sexual abuse and harassment. Right? So how do you train sexual abuse out of somebody? It's like you should be a baseline requirement. If you're going to be a prison guard, don't abuse the inmates sexually. What kind of training do you need for that? Apparently a lot more, according to these people. Now, dozens have been suspended after officers are accused of beating the women. Dozens of staff have been suspended, and a criminal investigation is underway. This was posted back January of this year, and it looks like we've come to a conclusion here. So let's take a look. We got some backstory here. Dozens have been suspended, criminal inquiries underway, women's only prison severely beating several women inmates earlier this month. Prisoners have told family members, which is often the only people that can ever report any of this stuff. It's really sad. Because who do they report it to? The prison guards who are doing the beating and the abuse, and they all work together. So then they send people messages, write letters, they electronically transmit messages, and what does a family member do about that? They call a lawyer. Lawyer goes, yeah, that's just how it is. What do you want me to do about it? Sue him? Okay, I'll sue him for you. It's going to cost you $20,000 to file a lawsuit. What? I can't afford that. All right, well, file a complaint with the Bureau of Prisons. Nobody cares, right? Now, if you happen to have a lawyer and they're working on the case for you, then you can sort of, address these things. But once somebody has been convicted and they're sentenced to, a number of years in prison, what's an attorney going to do other than go and file civil rights lawsuits? It's a lot of work. My point is the system has a lot of complaints coming through. And so it sort of just throws them away. Everybody in prison complains, right? So who cares? So these women now have actual legitimate complaints. And where's it going to go? Because the guards here are sort of covering up for themselves. It's a big problem. Now, the family members then communicate it. And one inmate who has now a broken eye socket and a transgender woman who's beaten so badly she cannot walk. She's now in a wheelchair, right? Family members and advocates have shared letters and other firsthand accounts. 30 officers, supervisors, they're all on administrative paid leave for beating somebody and putting him in a wheelchair. One transgender woman was allegedly handcuffed in her cell, thrown to the floor, beaten by a group of officers, according to the woman's mother. 3 officers stomped on her head based on the messages. The attack left the woman's knee so damaged she's now in a wheelchair. I'm scared to death for her, Rowland said. I don't sleep. I don't eat. I'm on the phone. I'm on the internet. I'm trying to find her some help. She asked that her daughter's name not be used to protect her against retaliation. And what are you going to do? Move her? You can't take her out. Say, hey, we're going to pull her out of your institution and take her somewhere else. No, she's in prison. Her account is similar to descriptions from 4 other prisoners. Both said at least 3 women were hurt, including one whose eye socket was fractured. Okay, that's a blow, right? It's not like getting, stop squirming while I'm patting you down, get up or whatever. It's not one of those. It's a fractured eye socket. The Attorney General name is Gruber, Gruel, which is just outstanding. Look at this name, Gerbier Gruel. It's almost like Grueler. Oh my gosh, it's like a mix mash of all the letters in there. All right, anyways. So Gruel announces charges against 2 more correctional officers related to the assaults. So let's take a quick look. We're going to skip most of this because we've got a lot to get to here. We've got our first person charged. We got Lieutenant Eddie Molina, 42 years old. Charges are official misconduct. And again, this is a publicly released statement from the Department of Public Safety from the state of New Jersey. They posted this over on their website. And then this is the backstory here. So first person charged, official misconduct, 2 counts, 2nd degree, tampering with public records or information. Why would that be? Failed to prevent and report the use of excessive force. Assault, falsely reported to the DOC that the, quote, forced cell extraction, he sent an email that he knew contained false information. January 12th, there was a 5-person suited team of correction officers performed to force a cell extraction for victim number 2. He was present. Victim number 2 was pepper sprayed, was not given an opportunity to comply before the team made entry into the cell in violation of policy. Members of the team used excessive and unreasonable force during the extraction, resulting in injury. Molina failed to intervene to prevent the unauthorized use of force. Victim 2 was removed. It was seen in video footage that visible facial injuries, she's clearly heard informing those present about her injuries. Lieutenant Molina then later sent an email falsely reported what occurred. Did not include that pepper spray was used. Did not include that there was no opportunity to comply, and did not include that there was unreasonable and unnecessary force. And number 3 is that they did not report that there was injuries that suffered as a result. Okay, so goes in. Allegedly, this woman does not want to come out of her cell. Starts using pepper spray. No opportunity to comply. Goes in. Gets very rough. Visible facial injuries. Then, when he has to report the use of force incident, sends an email, doesn't include any of that in there. So here is a complaint we see from the state of New Jersey, and we can see what they put in here. This is the complaint here. You know, we read through most of this. Knowingly refrain, injury, forced cell extraction. This is all a bunch of legal stuff, so nothing really new that we can glean out of here. But it says January 11th, Union 2 Municipal Court, complaint summons, Eddie Molina, been charged here, signed off on by Susana Lopez. So they're charging these guys. Nothing really stands out on this document. Let's go through. We're going to fly through this somewhat quickly because there's 9 more of them. But we have Sergeant Andraia Bridges, official misconduct, 2nd degree. Let's see what that was. So victim number 1, housed, failed to report this was another forced cell extraction, excessive use of force, extraction team. Victim 1 is heard crying in pain. She was struck multiple times by the team, fractured orbital bone. Sergeant Bridges failed to prevent this unauthorized use of force, failed to report violation of policy. So that was hers. Same thing here. You can see the official charging document. Again, nothing really stands out. She did commit 2 or more acts constituting an unauthorized exercise and use of her force. All right. 2nd degree charges, 5 to 10 year sentence. Charges, of course, accusation. So that was from the incident. Now we've got a new press release. Again, from Gerbier Gruel, we have this person who is Officer Luis Lisandro Garcia. Multiple counts, aggravated assault, official misconduct, and tampering with public records. What happened with him? Another 5-person team during the extraction. Let's see. Garcia punched and struck victim number 2 with a closed fist approximately 28 times in the face area. Don't you like that? 28 times. Despite the fact that victim number 2 had her arms up, was attempting to cover her face to protect herself, was standing pressed up against a wall with her back to officers. DOC policy permits use of force that is objectively necessary. Garcia's use of force is not, including a concussion she had and facial injuries. Then he submitted a false report regarding the incident. He falsely stated that she was throwing punches towards his torso. Video evidence shows, she was facing the wall. She didn't throw any punches at the torso. Nice fella. We have this guy over here, Sergeant Amir Bethea. That was another January 12th incident. So this is a January 12th incident, right? Same day, 1:13 a.m. This is 12:07 a.m. So he goes at 1:13 a.m. We have victim number 1. She throws an unknown white liquid out of her cell. He complied, tells her to place her hands up, handcuff. He struck her with his fist. Only allow for a reasonable use of force. During his abstraction, she was not resisting. Special custody report, he stated that she wanted to kill herself. All right, pepper spray, use of, so same type of thing, right? Closed fist numerous times, same story. Same story here, January 12th at 1:13 a.m. So he's a part of the same incident happening here. And later determined an orbital wall fracture. So we've got Anthony Valvano, also a bad POPO. We've got Trenton over here. So we've got, from Trenton, another release from Gerbier Gruel today. It says Sergeant Matthew Faschan. He's 33. Same type of incident. Early morning, January 12th. Charges February 4th. Same deal. Right. Struck victim 1, multiple fists. She was handcuffed and not resisting. Falsely claimed that she was inflicting injuries upon herself, but video doesn't exist. He filed a false report and justified an impermissible forced cell extraction. We have victim number 2, same type of thing happened on another victim for him. We've got this guy who is Officer Jose Irizarry. He's 37 years old. 2 counts for him, aggravated assault, 1 count of official misconduct. Let's take a look what happened here. So a different date. Nope, same date, January 12th, 1:13 a.m., 5-person team. So he was a part of that team. Victim 1 and victim 2. So they were just going around cracking heads 28 times. Head and neck area. He punched victim 2 in the head and neck area 28 times, resulting in a concussion and facial injuries. So between Luis Garcia and Jose Irizarry, these two guys were just beating the heck out of that woman. Not too good. We have this guy, senior correctional police officer, Courey James, another one, aggravated assault and official misconduct. Same date, right? Same incident, same story. This guy also, this is police officer Gustavo Sarmiento, 27. Official misconduct, aggravated assault. Same deal, January 12th, 113. Aided and abetted and failed to prevent the unauthorized use of force. So these guys are all just kind of standing around watching it happen. And this is our last one, number 10, senior correctional officer Tara Wallace, 35. Official misconduct and aggravated assault. Same incident, Jan 12, 1:13 a.m. Failed to stop the beating. So 28 times they're just wailing on this woman and nothing happens. 10 of them, 10 people, correctional officers, all charged with crime. So good news that they are being prosecuted, of course. See what happens with those women. Sounds like there might be a big cultural problem with the prisons there in New Jersey. So we'll hope that the situation improves in the New Jersey prisons. All right. And then we have our next prison story. So we've got the Bureau of Prisons. You know, there was a movie called Escape from Alcatraz with Clint Eastwood in it. One of my favorite movies. We're going to take a look at something that came from that story. But before we do, let's look at what is happening here. Apparently, the Bureau of Prisons has notified us that 4 inmates escaped from a federal prison using dummies and body doubles. I'm serious, yeah. Inmates at a federal prison, they pulled a fast one on prison guards by escaping with the help of body doubles, both real and fake. This is posted over on lawandcrime.com by Colin Kalmbacher. It says, according to a recent report from the Office of the Inspector General, 4 people were able to successfully abscond and evade detection from the Federal Bureau of Prisons Federal Correctional Complex in Beaumont, Texas, for over half a day before staff even realized what had occurred right under their noses. Ugh. No kidding. Wonder if that's how Epstein got out. Inspector General Michael Horowitz noted that DOJ OIG, the Office of the Inspector General, had taken stock of multiple investigations involving prison escapes in a letter-style report addressed to the BOP director Michael Carvajal. He's a Trump-era holdover. So he was appointed by Bill Barr back in 2020. And there is a sort of a question about this, about whether or not Biden is going to allow some of these holdovers to stay in place, right? The Bureau of Prisons director, it's a pretty big position, and that's a Trump person. So Director Carvajal, he oversees 122 Bureau of Prison facilities, 6 regional offices, 22 residential, blah, blah, blah. White House has so far made no public inclination as to whether they're going to replace him or not. In the report, Horowitz focuses on forced labor camp in the southern eastern edge of the Lone Star State. Forced labor, what? And there, the DOJ notes that 4 inmates escaped using dummies or by having other inmates impersonate them while guards went on with their duties entirely unaware for over 12 hours. So the movie that I was mentioning, Escape from Alcatraz, Clint Eastwood, and if you don't know the backstory here, but outside of San Francisco Bay, there's an island called Alcatraz, and they built a prison there for some time. I've actually been to the island and toured around it. It's a wild thing, but they would ship people over to this island, and they would put them in this maximum security prison because they thought that they could not escape because it's an island. And if you've ever been to San Francisco, the waters are quite cold. And so if you wanted to escape from the island, you would need a boat, or you would need somebody to come pick you up, or you need a raft or something, but you're not swimming across the shore. You're going to freeze, and that's going to be the end of you. So in the movie Escape from Alcatraz, Clint Eastwood plays the lead person who escaped. I think his name was Frank Morris. And what they did is they made these dummies, and the movie's excellent, really good movie. Nobody talks in it hardly at all. It's so good. You don't have to listen to anything, but it's Clint Eastwood, and he is just sort of walking you through how these guys coordinated escaping from the island, escape from Alcatraz. And there's a lot of question about whether they made it or not. So they actually did escape. I think 4 people were a part of the plan, and 3 of them, they kind of made it. One guy left, stayed behind, but the FBI came out, I think in the 1970s, and said that as far as they can tell, they drowned. right? And so everybody goes, yeah, not so fast about that. But when I was reading this story, I thought about those, the dummies that were made. So Frank Morris and the original crew that escaped from Alcatraz, they actually manufactured these dummies, and they looked like this. So this is what they were making within the prison cells, from inside the prison cells. Now, these are not the originals. These are recreations that the FBI made, I believe is where I got this. Yeah, FBI recreation here. So these were dummies. And of course, you know, in prisons, I guess back then, they had these art classes and make clay sculptures and all of this. And so they created these little dummies with actual hair, right? They grew, you know, got hair, and they clipped hair and put them on these dummies, and they put them in their beds. And then when the guards came by to do their counts, counted the dummies. Those guys escaped through sort of the walls and an old hatch that they were able to get through. So let's take a quick look at the actual report itself. This is the Management Advisory Memorandum. It says that the OIG has identified these concerns in connection with multiple investigations involving prison escapes, including an investigation where 4 inmates went undetected for more than 12 hours despite 3 overnight inmate counts. During that period of time, the OIG's investigation at the prison did not substantiate allegations that correction officers violated policies because, 1, the evidence showed that the inmates who escaped may have had other inmates pose as them or place dummies in their bed to deceive the officers during the nighttime counts. And 2, the evidence showed that the correctional officers likely complied with BOP and FCC policy when conducting the counts. Right? So they found this problem, but how can you blame the prison guards? They were just following the rules. The policies were being adhered to. Prisoners just kind of worked themselves around the policies. The OIG, however, identified security concerns that enabled the inmates to escape. We are told that the FCC Beaumont, which is the prison, has already begun taking actions to address these concerns. We believe similar steps should be taken by the Bureau of Prisons throughout the rest of the country. In this memo, we make 3 recommendations which are consistent with what's happening. So they go through this document. They give us the authorities. They talk about the issue. What is the issue here? Well, we got some security weaknesses that we need to get out. So we have this incident where 4 inmates were not detected for over 12 hours, despite 3 overnight inmate counts. Evidence showed that they escaped the facility after the 4 p.m. stand-up count for which they were present, and that despite the correctional officers conducting counts at 12 a.m., 3 a.m., and 5 a.m., they were not discovered missing at those times. They were ultimately discovered missing during a stand-up count at 10 a.m. We found that the outer doors of separate buildings within were unsecured and that they were unlocked, unmanned, not equipped, and with surveillance cameras and on. All right, so it's more security recommendations. They've got some conclusions here that they've identified gaps. People can smuggle contraband in and out, and that they should ensure that there are alarms on all doors. They should make sure video cameras are on, and they should install video cameras on all exterior doors. And so we've got, you know, all of those different recommendations that are there. They're being made by the Office of the Inspector General, and we'll see if they stop any of the other inmate escapes. Let's take some quick questions before we wrap up here from watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We've got Sliding Edges in the house as we will touch on Brian Williams and MSNBC showing Lincoln Project propaganda, likening Antifa to D-Day soldiers. Am I taking crazy pills? I have not seen that. No, I have not seen that. Brian Williams and MSNBC. I've not seen it. You know, I should probably follow him on Twitter, shouldn't I? I'll go take a look at it, though. We've got Joe Snows in the house says, resentencing cruel and unusual conditions. Yes, King. He says, more training. Yes, I don't buy it either. I find it hard to believe that adult humans need trainings to know how to pretend to be human beings. Yeah, I agree with you, Joe. It's like, you need like a 4-hour training on not sexually assaulting people or not punching people 28 times in the head. We've got LT13 says, is this the new season of Orange is the New Black? I don't know. Is that what that show's about? I never watched that show. You know, there are some sort of legal criminal shows that I can get into and some I just can't. Sort of watching people being locked away in custody is a little too much, a little too close to home for me. So Sliding Edge says, I think most guards don't go into service saying, I'm going to abuse my inmates. The majority of these dirty POPO come into service and was told it's all right. They perpetuated the abuse. And equally as bad, if not worse, other officers accepted this terrible, terrible behavior. Yeah. It sort of becomes a self-fulfilling sort of cycle, right? You kind of come in. Remember the movie Training Day when Denzel Washington meets up with Ethan Hawke, and Ethan Hawke goes, man, it can't be like this. It can't be like this. And Denzel says, it's like this, man. I'm sorry. Welcome. You know, I hope that's not the reality, and I don't think it is. But when you're talking about, you know, sort of that trend, there are we talk about it a lot here, the blue code of silence, the blue shield, and how these problems can compound due to the silence. We've got Sarah Smothers says, are there any safeguards requiring women guards to handle women? Women police can only perform pat downs on women, so how are there so many men in a female facility like this? It's a good question, Sarah. And, you know, I don't know what the answer, I don't know what's going on in New Jersey or why that is such a problem. But yeah, here in Arizona, we've got some pretty deliberate rules for interactions in that regard. But I don't know what's going on out there. It sounds like neither do they. Sliding Edge says, I've met some outstanding officers, good and honorable men, so have I, and women, and naturally I'm inclined to believe an officer of the law, the physical representation of order for society. It's important to look at things logically and not allow abuse of power to continue and find ways to weed out bad police early before bad becomes worse. Probably the best thing we can do to support our officers. I hear on that, man. Sliding Edge, bravo. I agree. You know, and I've said this a lot, that I think, you know, good officers want the bad officers gone. And I would imagine that would be a perspective that I would share, right? I'm a criminal defense lawyer. I don't want bad criminal defense lawyers. I'd be the first one to say, get that person out of here. Okay. I'm not going to protect that person at all. All right. We've got a couple more. We got Nadarb says, Faith Joy says, shout out to that prison for really stepping up the diversity of their corrupt guards. Got to give it to them for that. Oh, what a good comment to end the show. That's true, right? It's true. There's only like 1 or 2 white supremacist neo-Nazis in that lineup of the 10. Like only one neo-Nazi, I think, 1 or 2. All right. So great questions. Thank you for that, Nadarb. Love it. We've got some new people we want to welcome to the community. Welcome second chances to the community, to the crew over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. What's up? Coach America also joined up. They signed up by going down here. We've got some awesome stuff coming up. We've got first to thank those of you who asked the great questions who were on the show today. Thank you for sending those in. Love it when we can keep the commentary going. If you want to sign up over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, you can grab some cool stuff. You can download a free copy of my book. There's a PDF over there. It's called Beginning to Winning. Download a copy of these slides that we just went through today. If you want to check any of the sources or take a look at what's going on there, you can download a copy of my impeachment party document. You can download my personal productivity device system here. It's called Existence Systems. It's available at Locals. You can share links throughout the day and connect with great people. We have a monthly meetup that is going to be handled over Zoom coming up on June 26, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern at night. We did one in May. It was a lot of fun. We're going to do it again June 26th. It's free if you are a member at Locals. And this Saturday, we have a law enforcement interaction training coming up. I am going to post the registration this night, I promise, over at Locals. Saturday, June 12th, 12 noon, 9 a.m. Arizona time, 12 noon Eastern time. We're going to talk about law enforcement interaction training, about how to deal with law enforcement, and really about what the Supreme Court says and how, you know, some of these things interface with each other, because it is a complicated area of law. And so I want to remind you that there are other channels down below that I would love it if you went and checked out some of the content on, which is my crypto channel. I've got a new video I'm working on about the dark side pipeline hack. The FBI just recovered a ton of money of Bitcoin, and I was curious as how they got that. And so I got about 50 slides that I'm going to record probably tonight for that. So go subscribe to that channel if you're interested in that. Law enforcement all throughout this case, FBI, affidavit, search warrants, all this stuff. So we're going to talk about that on the crypto channel. And then we have a non-live channel where some of my deeper dives happen on Robert Gruller ESQ. Then we have R&R Law Group, of course, which is the law firm that I run. It's the R&R Law Group, and it's in Scottsdale, Arizona, and we love helping good people who've been charged with crimes to find safety, clarity, and hope in their cases and their lives. And so if you know anybody who needs any help in the state of Arizona, we would love it. We would be honored and humbled if you sent them our direction so that we had the opportunity to help. And my friends, that is it from me. We're going to be back here same time, same place tomorrow at 4 p.m. Arizona time, 5 p.m. Mountain, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. on the East Coast. And for that one Florida man out there, everybody, thank you so much for joining me today. Have a tremendous evening. I will see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.